Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Well, today I thought we would do something that is kind of makeup 101. It's beginner friendly makeup. I know there are so many people out there watching YouTube that are just looking for tips and tricks on how to do makeup. I have to say I'm a little bit jealous. I wish YouTube would have been around when I was younger. I think that would have helped make a lot of my early makeup faces be not so tragic. Not to say that I don't have a tragedy now and then. However, I think I've kind of honed my makeup skills to be much better than they were. A lot of thanks, of course, to YouTube. So I thought I would share some of the tips and tricks I've learned over the years on how to really make a pretty makeup face that's beginner friendly. I know not everyone out there loves makeup as much as I do, but they still want to be able to put together a pretty face, but don't always know exactly where to start or what products to buy. So I assure you, today's face is very easy and accessible. And if you're new to my channel, hello, welcome. My name is Jennifer. I am here because of you guys. I love sharing with you guys all the things that I love about hair, skin, and makeup. So if that sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, then do me a favor, stick with me by hitting that subscribe button and coming back to see more. Now listen, I am no professional in any sense of the word. I'm just a girl obsessed with makeup, maybe like you are. So if you want to see how this non-professional made an easy, beginner-friendly face happen, then do me a favor, sit back and keep watching. All right, so the first thing that I do is my primer and my eyebrows. My primer, I use different kinds depending on what's happening, my pores, do I have texture? Is it summertime and I really need for my makeup to last? Is it just a day where I'm gonna have my makeup on for a very long time? Which is what today is. So I used a gripping primer today from Cover FX. This is their gripping plus firming primer. This can be purchased at Ulta, and I just checked today and it's 50% off on the site, which kind of freaks me out, makes me think that maybe they're getting rid of this line. Fingers crossed that they're not. Maybe it's just a nice little sale they're having. Probably not. Anywho, this is my favorite gripping primer. Other brands make gripping primers. If you're looking for one, I know Milk makes the Hydro Grip Milk, I don't know, something like that. It's fine, not my favorite. I still like this one better. Primer's always first because it needs time to set up and then get ready for your foundation. If you just go primer foundation, it's not gonna work. And as you can tell, I did my eyebrows because they are a project. But I recommend you always do your eyebrows. If you're thick and fluffy, then great. You can just go through with a brow gel just to tame them and shape them the way you want. If they are sparse and thin like mine, you need a little more work. So I usually go in with this eyeshadow here in the Pat McGrath palette because it's kind of close to what I want. And I actually use a nice angled brush like this one here. I only use a little bit of this powder because it is pretty pigmented. And I start from the tail and I work my way forward so that the darker or the more, intense amount of pigment gets laid down at the back, and I go towards the front where I don't need as much pigment up in the front. If I went in here first, it would have too much pigment and that would make me look crazy. So that goes on the skin and just to fill in any of the bald areas. And then I go in with an eyebrow pencil. I have tons that I'm using, but for my purposes today, this one here is the best one as far as I'm concerned at the drugstore. It's by Joa. It is called the Precision Brow Pencil. It has a nice tiny point, which is super important when you want to draw those fine hair-like strokes. Plus it also has the spoolie on the end, which you need to be able to comb through. And I think this is around $5. Not only is it an amazing price, but it is a great, great product. Now I of course finish off with a brow gel, but I actually don't do that until the end of my routine because I'm using powders and whatnot, and I don't want the powders to get stuck in the brow gel. That way, where's my spoolie? When I finished up my whole face, I will comb through with a clean spoolie, combing out any powders that may have landed on those hairs, and then I go in with the brow gel, and that's when the look is complete. Now, like I've said a million times, I have fine, sparse eyebrows, so I do carve them out with a concealer. This is not necessary whatsoever. This is just something that you do once you start elevating your makeup routine. I have to do this because it just helps the overall look of my eyebrows. And for that, all I do is I take some of the concealer on the back of my hand there, and I will then go in, where's my little brush? I go in with this brush here. I like that it is flat, but it has a very thin edge and it's a little domed. So it just fits really nicely. I'm not so much moving the brush as I am moving my hand when I do this, and I just move it along. And then I pat the concealer in just to make sure it's all smooth, there are no lines, and it looks blended. Well, that's really not part of this routine. Don't think that's something you have to do. I just wanted to explain to you how I've started off. All right, moving on. I like to go in with concealer next. The reason why I like to do that is because once I have my concealer placed, I don't have to take my foundation over it. I can just blend my foundation into the line where the concealer is. If I go in with my foundation first, sometimes I end up going a little too high and then my concealer goes on top of it and it's just too much product. It gets too cakey. It's too easy for product to just get in any fine lines and look cakey and make you actually look older. So concealer first. Now I've been trying out this new concealer stick from Bobbi Brown. It is the Skin Concealer Stick. I use the shade Cool Sand. This came out like a week ago and I've used it twice and I've liked it very much so far. Now it is a concealer stick, so it is a little thicker, but it just glides so nicely. And I've noticed that some concealer sticks have kind of a weird dry down where they can be kind of pasty. This one isn't like that at all. It's nice and hydrating. That's something else to remember. Make sure you have eye cream on under your under eye concealer. That makes a huge difference in how the concealer wears, how it lasts, how it doesn't seep into those lines. So because this is a stick concealer, I blend this out immediately. If I was using one of my other concealers, like this one here, I let it sit for probably, I don't know, 20-30 seconds. It gets a nice tackiness to it and it helps with the opacity. You don't want to let it sit much longer than that because then you might have difficulty moving it. But so far that has been something that has worked for me really well. Now, if you notice, I didn't go all the way under my lash line. You don't need to. Don't even bother with that. I'll show you why later. But here's what I really want my concealer to do. I want it, can you see how I have a little bit of purple here, a little bit of darkness in the corner? I want to conceal that darkness, but I want to brighten my under eye. The brighter under eye just makes me look more awake, more refreshed, even if she exhausted and dead ass tired. And the warmth of my hand really helps press this in and kind of make it one with the skin without me having to like drag it around with a brush or the beauty sponge. For me, using my finger really works so well, especially with this cream stick. Now, typically for my under eyes, I use 1 to 2 shades lighter so I get that brightening effect. However, concealer is also for concealing. So if you have any sort of marks on your face, dark marks, red marks, acne marks that you want to cover, you want your concealer to be the same shade as your foundation. You don't want to see little brighter, whiter dots around your face that aren't blending with your foundation. That's why sometimes you might need 2 different concealers if you want one for brightness under the eye and one for concealing marks. But since I usually don't care about any marks that I have going on my skin, I like to use a medium coverage foundation and that dulls down any sort of discoloration or marks I have. I'm not looking to totally cancel out every mark on my face. I'm just looking to take the spotlight off it. So for me, foundation does that, and I usually don't use a concealer for spot concealing around my face. Now, right now, I do have a mark in between my eyebrows, which is super annoying to me, but that's because I tested out a sunscreen. That kind of aggravated my skin for a little bit. So I'll decide what I'm going to do with that later. And because my nose is a little redder, I am actually going to take a little bit of the concealer down the bridge of my nose just to help take that redness down. And in this case, I am going to use my sponge because I just want to pat it out gently, just a little bit, because my foundation will go over top of it. All right, so next up, foundation. The keys to foundation are finding, obviously, one that works with your skin. So you have to know, is your skin normal? Is it oily? Is it dry? Is it combo? Right now, mine is dry to normal. So I have, pretty much normal around the perimeter with a little bit of dryness, not so much that it's actually flaking. I'm controlling it with my skincare, moisturizer, blah, blah, blahs. But as the seasons change, so does my skin. So I have different foundations for different seasons. I know, it seems extra, but I can't help it. So I've been using the L'Oreal True Match Nude for the past, week or so. I showed it in a video and I was really impressed with how well it worked. The only thing I don't like is this whole dropper situation. Somehow it just gets all the foundation all the way around. It's a giant messy waste. It makes me crazy. Now, if you're new to foundation, I highly recommend you go to Sephora or Ulta. When you walk in the store and they're like, "Hi, what can I help you with? Are you here for anything special today?" Say, "Yes, I would love to be color matched for a foundation." Now for me, I like to have my color matching done to my neck because my face and my neck are actually different colors. So when I'm color matched to my face, I look crazy. I like for my face to blend to my neck. So I always have them patch test me here, and I walk around the store then for about 5 minutes because I want to see if it oxidizes. Very often it will oxidize on me, and the color that seemed right at first isn't right. I'll go back to the same girl and I'll be like, what do you think of this color? And then we work from there. That's why they're there, folks. They are there to help us get like the best shopping experience so that we'll continue to come back and spend all of our money. Now, obviously, if you're doing drugstore shopping, you can't do that. I have a terrible time at the drugstore. I can't tell you how many times I have purchased a foundation over and over and over again just to get the right shade. Luckily, Target and the drugstores I shop do take returns on makeup. So, I mean, that's helpful. It's still a pain in the ass though that you can't test in store. Anywho, I like this True Match. I have the shade 1-2.5. They're stretchable colors, so anyone slightly fairer than me to slightly a little darker than me should be able to wear this color. It also means that I should be able to wear it from now in the spring when I'm super pasty to into the summer to some degree when I might have a little more color in my skin. I do prefer using a beauty blender most times for my foundation, although I also love using a brush. It just depends. Sometimes I'll apply it with a brush and then go over and dab with the sponge. Either way, the whole key to any part of your makeup routine is blending. At any point that you're like, oh, I don't, blend. Just blend some more. Just getting a smooth, even look that's not patchy anywhere is the key to really making your makeup look its best. So I think today I'm gonna put a little bit on the back of my hand. That's probably too much. I'm going to go in with the brush first just to put it down, and then I will go over with the Beauty Blender just to smooth out any lines. And because I already have the concealer down, I'm not going really into that area, but I do want to blend the two areas together. And whatever you do, do not take and dot all over your face and then start in one area and then get to the others, because you will probably have a dry down by the time you get over here. I know it looks really cute on Instagram and YouTube when they dot it all over their face. You don't want to deal with the hassle of dried down foundation. Just work on one section at a time. And like I said, blending is key. It really is the difference between your makeup looking okay to your makeup looking pretty natural. Now you can see that has given me a nice, even, smooth coverage. I don't look totally made up, but you can tell there's a difference from my unfoundation side. And I'm not pressing into the skin with the blender. I'm literally just letting it bounce off the skin. Oh, another thing to consider, which I totally forgot to mention, make sure your primer and your foundation have the same base. That being, look on the ingredients list and see what the first ingredient. The first ingredient on this one here is water. The first ingredient on my primer was also water. If either one of them, the first ingredient is oil, then the other one also has to be oil. If you mix your oil and water, that's when you're going to get like that, like a dimpled, splotchy look that you cannot blend out no matter what. So make sure you keep your ingredients in line. All right, so when you're all finished blending, you definitely need to take a look in the mirror and just see if there's anywhere that you have missed or might need a little more foundation for some extra coverage. For me, it's always the nose. I gotta be honest with you folks, today I don't think that my Bobbi Brown concealer was really working the way I wanted it to. So I just went over the top with my Makeup Forever Ultra HD. I don't know, it wasn't looking nice. So I know that this one always smooths and makes everything look nice. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys about what I'm doing and not doing. And that's the whole point of this video in particular, is when you're new, you don't know what you don't know, but you do know when things don't look right. So you've got to keep trying until you get your makeup the way you want it. You're never going to have it exactly the way you want it the first time or the 5th time. It's a lot of trial and error. Luckily, it washes off. All right, so we have a pretty blank canvas now, and we need to add color. This is where your skin type is really going to matter. If you have dry skin, you're not going to want to go all over your face with powders. Your setting powder, your finishing powder, a blush, a bronzer. You're not going to want all those powders. It's just going to make you look drier and drier. Creams are for those of us who are normal to dry. Now, if your skin leans more oily, then yes, the powders are going to help soak up any oils and keep your skin from looking as shiny as it can be. Now, because my skin is normal to dry, I am going to do just a little bit of setting powder underneath my eyes so that my concealer does not crease. So just tap out with your finger any lines that may have formed because of the concealer, and then just gently press the powder in. Don't sweep it, just gently press it in. And we don't want to bake. We don't need all that powder under there because it's literally going to exaggerate lines you have or show lines that you actually don't have. Now, if you were oily, you could continue setting over your entire face. I will do some more setting in a little bit, but I'm going to continue using cream products. So I don't want to put powders down and then go with creams on top. There are a lot of new creams that actually work really well with powders, but that's too much for right now. We're beginners. We're just going to stick to the basics. Now, I honestly believe that cream bronzers look so natural and gorgeous. So I use them all the time. This one here is from Say. I love how creams melt into the skin and really look so natural, like they're just part of your skin. So filling up any sort of brush, you can even use a sponge. I've used a sponge several times. And I just want to warm up the perimeter of my face. Some people like to use bronzer instead of blush. That's fine. And I will do that sometimes in the summer, but that's not my vibe today. So a long time ago, Guerlain actually came up with a technique that's known as the 3, basically using your bronzer in a 3 shape. So going from your forehead around to your cheekbone and then back around to your jawline. And it's beautiful. I mean, everyone does it for a reason because it is just the perfect way to warm up your face. Make sure you take the bronzer into your hairline, especially if you have like darker hair, because you can really see the difference from like the lightness of your face to the lightness of your scalp when you have dark hair contrasting that. So just bring it up. You'll wash it out later. And make sure if you're using a cream, you are doing like a patting or tapping motion. You don't want to drag it because you will disturb any products below your foundation. And placement is key. If you have a high forehead, then you're going to want to bring your bronzer a little lower just so to kind of visually make your forehead look not so high. If you have a shorter forehead, then you're not going to want to put any bronzer in this area, just on your perimeters. So keep in mind what your face shape is. And also, we're not going to contour, but going down the sides of the nose helps warm it up so it doesn't look like this bright white spot on your face after you've got all this warmth everywhere else. I actually like to set my cream bronzer with a powder bronzer. I don't set it with a setting powder. I just think, why not? I mean, it's going to be set with a powder. Why not use a bronzer powder? All right, next up, blush. Blush is one of my favorite things. I think it just brightens your face. It gives like a youthfulness to it. Sometimes as people get older, you just notice that they're not wearing blush, or if they're wearing blush, they're not wearing anything else. Balance is key. So sure, you just want to perk up your face a little bit and wear a little blush. Make sure you're using a cream blush if you're not wearing anything else on your face. That way it'll blend nicely into your skin without looking like it's sitting on top of your skin. I have lots of cream blushes that I love to use, but I think I'm going to use this one. This is from Rose Inc. This is the shade Heliotrope. I have been loving this so much. Now you can put it on your beauty blender and dab it around. I actually prefer to go in with a brush. I just feel like I get a little more control and I'm putting it exactly where I want it to be. So I load up my brush and I start in the middle of my cheek. That way I can take it out and up and I can bring it a little bit forward. And I'm going on top of my cheekbone and just patting it in. Now, you don't see a lot of people right now going to the front of their cheek. It's just a trend. On me, it looks nice if I have a little bit of color on the actual apples of my cheeks. Take a look at your face. Try it out in different ways. See what works best for your face shape. There will always be different trends popping up on socials. It doesn't matter. What matters is how your face shape handles the colors. Now, this is one of those cream products, like I said, handles itself beautifully with powders. That's why I'm able to go over the top a little bit of the bronzer powder that I just put down, because this formula is magnificent. Now, I always go with a little more color on the cheeks. Don't worry, I do it for 2 reasons. One, blush is the first thing to fade, but I'm also gonna go over with a finishing powder, so it's gonna be okay. Here again, I also go on the tip of my nose with what's ever remaining on the brush. I don't put any more on there. And I just go slightly in the center with just the lightest little bit. You don't notice it that much, but you notice it if I don't do anything there. Now, for those of you who prefer using powder blushes, I love those too. I have tons of them. I really like the Hourglass. These are the ambient strobe lighting blushes. What I like about them, you can see that it's like a mixture of like a cream and then the actual blush shade, but they have a really beautiful luminescence to them. I don't know if I can show it on my hand or not. I don't know. I hope that's going to translate. But even though it's a powder, it has this like glow to it, but it's not super glowy. So if you don't want to use a highlighter, these blushes are great because they're going to give just the most beautiful amount of like luminescence to your cheeks. So you don't need a highlighter, but you still have a gorgeous glow. All right, so now that my actual complexion is done, I do want to use a setting powder. I'm going to use the Flower Setting Powder from Beauty Bakery. It's what I have and love right now. You can go in with it a couple different ways. You can use a puff, which I really like to use a lot. I'll show you. Take it and make it like a little taco. Press it into your powder. Load it up nicely, but then take the puff and press it into the lid, because what you want to do is get off any extra so it lands in here, but you also want to press it into the puff. You don't want to go straight on your face with a ton of powder. You want for your puff to be able to place it evenly, not a whole bunch of powder. Now, I always want to set right under my cheeks to my jawline. I come around, up along my nose, over top of my upper lip, and then back around the same way. And there's enough product in here to do that. And I think using a puff works so much better. I mean, using a brush is nice. You definitely get it all over and it works really nicely, but I like working it into my skin, getting it pressed in there so I know it's really going to lock down my cream products so they're not going to move. This voice of mine, I'm sorry. Oh, it's like, I don't know, are allergies starting already? Is that what is going on here? It's gross. All right, I'm doing it again. I put a little more in the puff, pressing it into the cap, and then working it in here because I want to go on the bridge of my nose, up in between my eyebrows, and just in the center of my forehead because I get oily in this area. Not terribly so, but enough that I don't want my creams breaking up. And now you can see I still have some glow from my blush. I haven't made my face completely matte, but I have just set everywhere else. Now for eyes. I think for eye color, if you want to do like an eye color on your lid, I think the easiest thing for a beginner is using an eye crayon. All the companies make them. I have the Laura Mercier Caviar Sticks here. I think they're fantastic. They come in a huge range of shades. Now what's so easy about these, they may seem daunting at first. Let me get a brush. But if you play with them, you're going to find they work so easily. Now I always wear a primer. Today I'm not going to wear a primer just because we're doing beginner makeup here. I want you to see that you don't need to do the bajillion steps that I do. You got to start somewhere. All right, so the easiest way to do this is just go on your lid. Stay within the lid. I know, that looks crazy, right? Hang on. Take any sort of slightly dense brush and just go back and forth. You can go from the bottom, work your way up, and then slowly make little circles, and it will start moving the product around. Start diffusing it and just move it around. Now, don't bring it all the way out. You don't need to do that. Just to the edge of your lid, and just in circle motions, move it around. And you'll see that as you make those circles, it'll diffuse the color out to your upper lids. And that is how it looks much more natural than putting the color up there and working it around. And then after you've done that, go back in, assess the situation, decide where you want a little more color, put the color in a smaller, more targeted area, and then just buff it until you get it the way you want it. And make sure you bring it in towards the nose. That way you're getting a nice blend. And another thing to remember is how you're holding your brush. The farther down the shaft that you hold it, the lighter the pressure is going to be. The farther up you use it, the more pressure you're going to be using. So keep that in mind. I like to use it midway towards the back. Lighter pressure just helps me blend more easily. Now, because we have this brightness under the eye from the concealer, I like to bring a little bit of color from the eyeshadow under the eye so we don't look so like blanked out right under the eyes. So I just take that same caviar stick and go about 1/3 of the way in, and then let my brush do some really gentle blending. And how easy was that? Just one product on my eyes, and it just brings like the whole face together. All right, now eyeliner. I, as of late, have been enjoying tight lining, and that's because for years I wouldn't use eyeliner at all, and I would just go in with mascara because my eyelids are changing, because I'm getting older and I now have a hooded lid. I have to do things differently. So I like to tight line, which means putting this in that waterline underneath my eyelash line. Now, that took me a while to be able to do because it creeped me out. Just like watching people on YouTube doing it, I was always like, I can't watch. I've gotten used to doing it to myself, so it's not such a big deal. I will recommend, however, where's my sharpener? That if you do it, you don't have a very sharp point on here, but I don't like it when it's completely like dulled out either. I like kind of a medium. See, even that is just a little too pointy for me. So I'm gonna squish it down. I like the point to be like that. So it's a little pointy, but not entirely. It's like rounded off. I'm just gonna go under my lash line here. I know it looks gross. Right in that waterline. And I go as far as where my lashes go. So wherever my lashes stop, that's where I stop. And then I just step back, take a look. Looks good. Basically, this just darkens up my lash line. So when my mascara goes on, my lashes look thicker than they really are. Now, what I will sometimes do is I will do just a little bit of the eyeliner here, and then either with this nice little blender on the end or with my favorite smudger, this brush here. This is like a dense, tight little smudging brush, and I will just work that eyeliner in and smoke it out and smoke it up. But I'm not doing that today. All right, so before I do mascara, I do want to finish with the powders on my face. So you don't have to do this. I'm going to, just because it's one of my favorite parts of my routine, I like to use a finishing powder. I use this one here from Hourglass. It is the Ambient Powder in Ethereal Light. It gives just this nice creaminess and kind of dulls down my cheek a little bit. I like to use a fluffier brush. I really get it in here, tap it off just a little bit, and I go just a little bit on the front part of my face and right down the middle. And I just think it makes everything like a little more creamy, soft, cohesive. All right, before I do my setting gel and my eyebrows, I'm just gonna take one more look and make sure I don't need to touch anything up, which I usually do. All right, now for my setting gel. Today I'm using from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is just their clear brow setter. I'd gotten this kind of deluxe trial size from some purchase I made, and as I'm trying to use up products, I thought, oh, perfect. This was probably the first brow gel I ever used. I think basically Anastasia started the whole brow craze. All right, brows are set. Now, one of my favorite things is mascara, but in order to do mascara, you must 100%, you have no choice. You must curl your eyelashes. There is such a difference when you put on mascara when your eyelashes are curled and standing up. It just opens up your eyes, makes your eyes look so much brighter and wide awake. Just don't skip this, please. I know it looks like a torture device. It's really not that bad. Can you see that difference? I know you can. Now, if you say, oh, I hate using an eyelash curler, my lashes get caught in there, it hurts, then that's not the right curler for you. Get a different one. I have this one from Surat Beauty, and it is very nice. It's also kind of pricey. She's over $30. I can't remember how much she is now, but she's pricey. However, I've probably had her for at least 5 years. So it's a one-time investment. I have tons of mascaras. I had tested this one from MAC. This is the MAC Stack, and I like it very much. The only thing I don't like about it is that it is not waterproof, but whatever. All right, there's no mystery to mascara. Just get it on there. All right, the lashes on. Now, you don't think I was gonna skip highlighter, did you? Of course I'm not going to. I like using both creams, liquids, powders. Today I'm gonna use this powder because we can use this for 3 purposes. So first purpose, obviously, for doing on the high points of the cheekbones. This one here is from Makeup by Mario. This is the Soft Glow Highlighter in the shade Pearl. I think it's so pretty. Even though it looks like it's a very light shade, it's actually pretty translucent, kind of clear. You don't notice like the light so much as you notice just like the bright kind of glow. I think it's so pretty. And where you put it on your face is up to you. Definitely high points of the cheeks. Some people, like me, I like to bring it down a little bit. It helps add a little bit of fullness and roundness to the apples of my cheeks. But look at your face, try it over and over again till you find the way that you like it sitting on your face best. Now, of course, I do down the bridge of the nose. Who doesn't love that glow? And I like the tip of the nose. And I like right here where the nose curves into the brow. I just think that's like a pretty, pretty place to highlight. And right above the Cupid's bow. Now, my favorite place to highlight, most of you know, my inner corner highlight. I'm not skipping it. And this is the perfect product to use for that. Do you know I've never taken the little protective, finally. All right, so just inner corner. Now, you can highlight with a glowy powder like this, but you can also highlight with a flat white powder. I very often will use the flat white that's from the Makeup by Mario kit. This shade right here. It is so beautiful for a matte highlight in the corners. I do that very often. Using a shade like that is just so nice for giving brightness, but not shine, because sometimes you don't want to shine. And now I'm going to go just under the brow, just ever so slightly. I know, it's a lot of highlighting. I don't care. Last but not least, lips. So I like to take off whatever makeup has kind of landed on my lips while I'm doing my face. All right, so keeping it easy today, I'm going to use from Makeup by Mario, this is the Moisture Glow in the shade Apricot Glow, but I am going to line my lips in a similar shade just because, well, I like a lined lip. Now, when I'm using a lip liner with the Moisture Glows or anything that is going to be glossy, I like to just fan out the color into my lips so that there isn't a harsh line. And now for the Moisture Glow. Oh, that's so satisfying, that sound. Now, because it's so pigmented, you absolutely do not need a liner. This is just my preference. And look at that glossy, gorgeous color. Not to mention, these are super hydrating for your lips. I love these so much. Oh, let's get this hair down. What's she been doing? So as you can see, I used pretty much the same tones of colors for my eyes, cheeks, and lips. That's what really helps keep the face very cohesive and clean and classic looking. It's the easiest way to put together your look if you just stick with one kind of color family. Now, do you need every single one of these products to make a look like this? No, you don't. What you do need to do, though, is keep in mind your skin type, what's going on with your skin's condition, you know, any sort of pores or texture, is it oily, is it dry, all of that. Use neutral colors that you can blend to make a very clean look, and make sure your primer and foundation both have the same base, so water or oil. Now, is there a ton more that I can do to my face? I can do all sorts of contouring. I can do all sorts of shading. I can add lots more color to my lids. I can do eyeliner. I can do so much more, but that's what we're here for today. This is like a very basic, easy, beginner-friendly face. But yet, I don't feel like it looks basic. Do you? No, this is great basic. All right, friends, let me know in the comments below if you have questions about any of these products or how to make this basic beginner face happen. Now, if you like what you saw, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. You know you're coming back anyways. And if you want to know when I've uploaded new videos, make sure to hit that notification bell below. I upload Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 12:15. All right, friends, that's it for today's face. I want to thank you so much for being with me, and I'll see you real soon. Mwah.